The Knicks' three-headed monster of OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Jalen Brunson take down the Sacramento Kings, and I'm here to break it all down. What's up, guys? It's your boy, Dariel. Let's get right into today's video. So the Knicks just finished beating the Sacramento Kings by the score of 143 to 120, and this is definitely a welcome sight from especially Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges for the entire season has been literally up and down, peaks and valleys. From the beginning of the season up until Christmas Day, it's kind of been like, what's going on with Mikal? And then on Christmas Day, Mikal Bridges had that offensive explosion. And ever since then, honestly, it's been up and down, peaks and valleys. But tonight, Mikal Bridges had one of his better games. He ended the game with 27 points, 10 of 15 from the field, 5 of 7 from three-point line, converting both of his free throws, grabbing 5 rebounds, dishing out 7 assists, and playing 35 minutes. This is definitely a welcome sign for Mikal Bridges. And of course, as we wind down, heading into the All-Star break, the second person out of that three-headed monster, we got OG Anunoby, 33 points, 12 of 18 from the field, 4 of 7 from three-point line, converting 5 of his 6 free throws. We got 3 rebounds, we got 4 assists, and how many minutes? 35 minutes. OG Anunoby, the one question I have about OG is honestly, just his durability and his availability. OG Anunoby, like the one question that we have about him is, are you going to be able to be healthy by the time the playoffs come? Like, not every single season, but the talk and the narrative around OG's name is that like he kind of starts breaking down towards the end of the season. And it didn't happen just last year with the Knicks when he tore his hamstring. And he ended up coming back to play Game 7 of the semifinals against the Pacers, where he was looking like an absolute walking dead zombie. But like there's been examples with this when he was with the Toronto Raptors. So with OG, for the most part, he's had a complete stellar season. There might have been, it was like maybe a couple of weeks ago, maybe like close to the beginning of the month, and towards the end of December, where there was like a small amount of games, maybe like 3 or 4 games, where OG was looking it was starting to look a little worrisome. Like I think he ended the game in like some single digit points. Field goal attempts weren't there. Free throw attempts weren't there. So I'm glad to see that OG Anunoby, it just seems like he's kind of like ascended again, back to like what we normally expect him to. I mean, 33 points tonight is definitely a little bit more on the it was just a little bit more than we needed. I think OG Anunoby anywhere between like 20 to 25 points, then we're going to be solid, and we know that we're going to be competitive against any team in the NBA. But when you get games like this where he has 33 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, stuffing the stat sheet, like we're definitely better off with OG Anunoby playing this way. And of course, the last monster of the three-headed monster in tonight's game, Jalen Brunson, 25 points, 9 of 17 from the field, 4 of 6 from three-point line, converting all 3 of his free throws, dishing out 11 assists. In how many minutes? 36 minutes. And before I move on any further, definitely want to give a big salute to Jalen Brunson and Kat for being named All-Star starters. This is the first time that the Knicks have had starters in the All-Star game in 50 years. Listen, born and raised in New York, of course, I'm always going to rep New York wherever I go. It's New York or nowhere, Queens or nowhere. Queens get the money. You guys know the drill. But like I've said this before, like our history is actually not great. And if we're looked at as one of the premier organizations in the league, like besides the Patrick Ewing era in the 90s, like the only other great time to be a Knicks fan was in the 70s when we won those 2 chips with Walt Clyde, Earl Pearl Monroe, Willis Reed. But look at that. From the 70s all the way up until the 90s, we were kind of like in middle of the pack, and we obviously had some bad seasons. And then we get Patrick Ewing, and then for the most part of the 90s, we're in contention, but never really able to get over the hump because someone named Michael Jordan. But whatever, neither here nor there. And then and then from literally the year 2000 up until even the mellow days weren't really great. They weren't supposed to be what basketball and hoop heads expected. So I'm not even going to count mellow days. He definitely underperformed. The talent that he had around him, of course, I definitely got to throw that into the caveat. But from the 90s all the way up until we get Jalen Brunson, it's pretty much, for the most part, it's pretty sad. So basically, having 2 starters in the All-Star game, this is just definitely something new that us Knicks fans, I'm not used to this. I'm not used to this at all. I mean, I really started watching the game probably in the year like 2000, really being able to understand what was going on in the game. It probably wasn't until like 2003, 2004. and those years were nightmare days for the Knicks. But Jalen Brunson just showing us why he's capped. And one player that I definitely do want to highlight besides the three-headed monster, I want to highlight Josh Hart. Josh Hart ended the game with 20 points, 8 of 14 from the field, 1 of 2 from three-point line, grabbing 18 rebounds, dishing out 11 assists in how many minutes? 40 minutes. Now, of course, with that box score, Josh Hart he's in triple-double land. And one graphic that the Knicks actually put up during the telecast was the most triple doubles in Knicks history. Josh Hart is currently in 4th with 12. Ahead of him, we got Richie Guerin, which Richie Guerin, like, I don't even know what that guy looks like, but like in all of these records that the Knicks have, Richie Guerin is, and I think every single one of them, the most points averaged for a season for a Knick, the most points scored in the game for a Knick. Like, I feel Richie Guerin is always in these record conversations as far as being a Knickerbocker. So salute to you, Richie Guerin. But besides Richie Guerin, we got Michael Ray Richardson with 18, and then we got the Knick GOAT, Walt Frazier, with 23. And Josh Hart, man, again, pun intended, the heart and soul of this team. When Josh Hart is just like all over the place, when he's putting the ball in the bucket, when he's cleaning up the glass, when he's creating plays for others, when he's showing the energy and passion that he plays with, when he's diving on the floor, like, there's not a lot of guys that I would take before Josh Hart. And for the most part, in every organization that he's been with, you see the impact that he's had. The Lakers, I mean, he wasn't really there for a long time. He was part of the, I believe, the Anthony Davis trade that sent Anthony Davis from New Orleans to the Lakers. So Josh Hart with the Lakers, not so much. And then with New Orleans is a horrible organization, so there's that. And then from New Orleans, he goes to Portland. At that time when he was with Portland, like, Portland wasn't looked at as much of a contender, but he was there to provide that veteran leadership. And then we make the trade to get Josh Hart to come to New York to pair up with his college buddy, Jalen Brunson. And look at what he's been able to do since he's come to the Knicks. Like, one of the cornerstones of the organization, Josh Hart, 100%. The last thing I want to mention is the bench that Coach Tibbs actually utilized tonight. It was kind of interesting because in the first half, he used 9 players. Deuce came off the bench, Campaign came off the bench, Precious came off the bench, and Landry Shamet. Now, Coach Tibbs, the most flack that he gets from Knicks fans and the NBA talking head shows and the NBA media is he runs his guys into the ground. Now, I don't know if this is something that Coach Tibbs is going to try to do moving forward. 100% he's not going to do this in the playoffs. But I don't know. It was kind of interesting to see that in the first half. Like, usually in the regular season, I can't remember the last time he used all 4 players off the bench in a regular season game. It's always like 2, maybe push it to 3, but Deuce is a guarantee. Precious is a guarantee. Okay, I guess Campaign you could throw in there, but using 4 in the first half, that was definitely a lovely sight to see. So we'll see how Coach Tibbs, we'll see if this is something that we got to get used to as Knicks fans. Maybe he turned the corner, maybe he finally gave up. But honestly, I don't think so. I think it was just a one-night kind of thing. Kind of want to talk about the Sacramento Kings, man. The Sacramento Kings are a very interesting team because they made the playoffs, that was 2 seasons ago now, and they lost in Game 7 in the first round to Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors, where Steph Curry dropped a 50 burger ball. But I was always under the assumption that actually Sacramento Kings should have won that series. And ever since they lost that playoff series, they've regressed. And they've actually taken really big steps back. Last year, they didn't even make it to the playoffs. I don't even think they made it to the play-in. The Sacramento Kings, they fired Mike Brown. Mike Brown was the coach of the year, 2 seasons ago? And he completely changed the culture of that organization. The Sacramento Kings were, if not the biggest joke in the league. And then they make it to the playoffs, first time in, 15 seasons. And that season, I believe he won the coach of the year. Last season, they didn't make it to the playoffs. And now this season, he gets fired. And the Sacramento Kings, I believe they might have been on a little winning streak prior to coming in here, playing the Knicks. But it's just interesting to see where they are. Currently in the West, in the 10th spot, 23-22. And their last 10, they're 7-3. But they lost the last 2 games, including tonight against the Knicks. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And then somebody that doesn't... one of the most underrated, one of the most not appreciative players that we have in the league is Domantas Sabonis. 25 points, 13 rebounds, 12 assists, 11 of 14 from the floor. He took 2 3-pointers where he converted 1 of those, took 3 free throws, and he converted 2 of those. Like, Domantas Sabonis is just a double-double machine. If you play Domantas Sabonis, you can guarantee that he's going to have a 20 and 10 or 25 and 12, 14 kind of game. But when you have the conversations of being an all-star, like he's always left off the list. When you have the conversations of, all right, maybe MVP might be a little much, but the all-star conversation, he's never mentioned. Now, the Western Conference is a different animal. It's a different beast than the Eastern Conference. So it's hard to really make some noise and really put yourself ahead of the curve in the Western Conference. But the Montes Sabonis, man, he just deserves so much more love because he's just a machine, bro, out there, and he's able to put the ball on the floor, create plays for others. The ability, his passing ability is up there with his dad, Venus Sabonis. But Sacramento Kings, they're just an interesting team because I just don't know. I don't really know what they can do. They signed DeMar DeRozan this offseason, and again, up until the firing of Mike Brown, it wasn't really working. And then Doug Christie got named the interim coach. They won their 7-3, I think I just mentioned 7-3 in their last 10, or 7-4, whatever. And I just don't know where they go from here. There's been a lot of talks about De'Aaron Fox being on the trade market. I don't know where they go from here. But guys, that's it for today's video. I want to say thank you so much for checking it out. Leave it in the comments. Let me know what you guys thought about the Knicks' effort tonight against the Sacramento Kings. And until next time, you guys know the drill. You guys know the vibes. Jalen Brunson for all the MVPs. Jalen Brunson, our captain, an NBA All-Star starter. Salute to you, my guy. Cat as well. Salute to you, my guy. The deuce is loose for co-MVP. OG Anunoby for Defensive Player of the Year. And Taj Gibson, we love you and we miss you. Taj Gibson for president. But until next time, Queens get the money. Queens are nowhere. New York are nowhere. Get with it or get lost. And I'm out. Queens. Peace.